Hello brothers and sisters of the Imperium, and welcome back to another Chapter Master Morgan video. Today, for the first time ever on this channel, we are going to be doing a strategy focused 40k guide, primarily focusing on Space Marines 9th edition stratagems. Before we begin, make sure you like, comment and follow down below to feed the almighty YouTube algorithm machine spirit. I also include timestamps where possible in the video description. You can also find your favourite types of the videos I make in the playlist tab of this channel. So why do I think stratagems are so cool? Well, basically, in simple terms, stratagems are abilities and buffs that you can use for your models in the middle of combat. You have your normal stages of rules, and I will make a very simple how to play 40k for beginners, i.e. just the very basics. But when you're in the middle of the game, you've got these different rules which are called stratagems, which you can spend command points on. Command points are basically tokens you get for having a battle-forged army. And that leads me to my next point. What is a battle-forged army? And I'm going to give that to you in simple terms now. So here we're looking at the Space Marine Codex of 9th edition, and I always have to start off my videos with Games Workshop by saying, Games Workshop, where is the love? If you want to know what a battle-forged army is in this book, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Over here where it says stratagems, Space Marine armies have access to unique battlefield strategies and tactics that they can utilize to best their foes in the theater of war. These are represented by stratagems in this section, which you can spend your hard-earned command points to use in your games. But you can use stratagems and command points. You can find out more about them in the Warhammer 40k core book. I mean, come on, Games Workshop. I've just spent £25. I do have the core book, which we're going to look at in a second. But GW, you could have at least given me an introduction to get me going on what to do. But they do. They're very nice to actually show you this is what you could have won, and they show you a picture of what a combat patrol is, which they describe as the smallest size game in the Space Marine Force is the way to start. Created in the context of the Warhammer 40k Elite Edition starter set, blah, 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 blah. And again, it's like, just go and read the core book. Well, GW, what if I don't have the core book? I would have bought this Space Marine Codex. Can I not just know what it is so I can gain access to the stratagems? So this is page 244 of the core book. The manual that you use, the 9th edition manual you use to play 40k. And in very simple terms, the first thing you've got to decide, and I'm doing this for my friend who I've played a couple of games with, he's only just entered the hobby, he wants to know, he's like, Morgan mate, we've played a couple of games backwards forwards just with the basic rules, no battle-forged army, no stratagems, and he's like, Morgan, I really want to know about these stratagems, they're really fascinating. So I'm like, cool, alright, so let's do as follows, and I'll say exactly what I said to him to say to you guys. This is the Battle-Forged army, so I'm not going to read through all of this. I'm just going to do it. Simple things that you need to do. Firstly, you just need to decide to do a combat patrol. This will give you up to 50 power level of models, which you can count up in your codex, or 500 power level. I just use 500 points, or 50 power level. That then will give you access to 3 command points, right? That is 3 currency. I'm just using British pennies here, yeah? 3 British pennies you get as currency. You don't literally get British pennies, but I'm using these as command points so you can see a physical currency, so you can picture it in your mind. You now have a massive 3 command points. So what do you need to do next? Well, very simple. Just go to detachments. You're now almost battle-forged. So let's make a battle-forged detachment, right? So you've decided your power level, you've got 50 power level. Now how do you spend your 50 power level, and how do you spend your currency of 3 command points? Well, we'll start off with the smallest one. As Games Workshop so politely said, a patrol detachment. That's this one up here at the top, as you can see. All right. Now, first of all, it costs 2 command points. So you've got to spend 2 of your hard-earned British pennies, and you'll be able to get access to this detachment. But you get those refunded if you have a warlord. Now, we will discuss what a warlord is in a second. It's a form of HQ. It's a boss of your detachment, right? Like a captain, lieutenant, something like that, all right? So, and I'll show you the kind of units you can do for that as an example in a sec. But you get this back. So you've now got 3 command points again to start your game because you spent 2 and you got 2 back. So kind of pointless, but I guess it's kind of forcing you to choose a warlord or allocate a warlord to your army. What else do you need to do? Now, there are limitations in all detachments, okay? We're starting off with the smallest common denominator. You can see they're in red here. You have HQ, troops, elites, fast attack, heavy support, flyers. I'm not going to describe what they are here. You can read through your Space Marine Codex and see the different types. First of all, HQ. It's all about minimums and maximums. The minimum amount of HQ is 1. So you need a minimum of 1 HQ to field this army, all right? And a maximum of 2. So you can't have 15 lieutenants, even though Games Workshop have made 15 lieutenant models. And it is lieutenant, Yanks, not lieutenant. Start pronouncing it properly. Troop choices, number 2, a minimum of 1. Okay? Maximum of 3. Okay? Elites. You don't need to, there's no minimum for elites, fast attack, heavy support. But it is maximum 2 elites, maximum 2 fast attack, maximum heavy support of 2, maximum 2 flyers. Dedicated transports, okay? You have to have 1 infantry unit to take a rhino or what else. You can't just field tons of, rhinos or razorbacks just on their own, all right? So that's what you need. You just need to say to your mate, a minimum of 1 HQ, a minimum of 1 troop choice, and whatever else you want to a maximum of 2 or 3 on the troops. And you need to allocate a warlord, and we'll discuss that right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we have our Battle Forged patrol detachment, and I'm quickly going to run through what we've created here. I would like to first of all big up Battlescribe. Battlescribe is a free app. I am not endorsed by them. This isn't a paid promotion. The guys there do the Emperor's work. It's a free app that helps you create basically up-to-date Space Marine armies, and I actually have got it on my phone next to me here to create this army very quickly, and it will limit what you can do. And as we saw in the core book there, it will do it. You can upload a patrol detachment from their data files, and then that you can then allocate your units. So let's quickly do that now practically. I've given the unit in terms of first slot, which is HQ, just to remind you again, for patrol detachment, minimum of 1 HQ, maximum of 2. I've given us a captain over here from the Indomitus set, and also a chaplain as well. Again, most of this is from the new Indomitus set. I've made the captain a warlord. Remember what we said earlier, that you need a minimum of 1 warlord to get your 2 CP back. So we've now got our 3 English British pennies back. So that's the HQ, a maximum of 2, and there are 2 there. Next is a troop choice. Remember what we said, a minimum of 1. So I've given one unit of intercessors there. That's that. The troop choice done. I've only done 1 out of 3. Remember, we could take up to 3 if we wanted. Next is elites. Now, I would say, just as a quick aside, elites is probably one of the most oversaturated, when I mean like different types of choices for elite. So doing a patrol detachment with just a 2 maximum, remember we said there's a maximum of 2 elite choices, is a bit frustrating because there's so many good units in there that you want to use. But anyway, so I've chosen out of all of them a Blade Guard as well, absolutely brutal in melee, and a Redemptor Dreadnought, again very competitive. If you like the look of him, he's not a standard one, he's a complete kit bash. Do check out my Venerable Redemptor Dreadnought video, which is in the playlist under kit bashes. Next, so that's my 2 maximum of 2 elite choices. I'd love to take more, but I can't. Fast attack, I have chosen Outriders. That's these guys here, the 3 bikers, Indomitus Outriders. That's the maximum I chose for fast attack. I could have had 2, but I chose 1. Next is heavy support. And I've got a very competitive, the 3 Eradicators there. They're the Melter Rifle boys. They have been nerfed slightly by having their points increased, but they're still pretty tasty. They are very, very good units to choose for heavy support. And then finally, I've got an Impulsor. To be honest, I've only ever used this thing once. Actually, The model, I know some of you nerds are going to flag me up on this. It's actually a repulsor model, but I just proxy it as a repulsor. I don't think I've ever... a repulsor is actually a proper tank, whereas an impulsor is just a transport unit. It's like a flying rhino for units to get them into battle. But I just wanted to show you the different types of units as well. So that's it. You've now created a battle-forged patrol detachment. You have your 3 CP to spend on stratagems. So let's start spending some CP on some stratagems. Let's get into it. And today I will say we're not going to do all stratagems. We're just going to do the first 8, which is in the Space Marine Codex. So I'm not going to go through all stratagems today. I may follow up on this video actually doing more stratagems, but today I'm just going to do the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Battle Tactic Stratagems. Okay guys, just as a quick aside about stratagems in general, as I want this to be for complete beginners as well, I would say one of the most important thing in general, if we take a step back about stratagems, is that the same stratagem cannot be used more than once during the same phase. What do I mean by that? So basically, if you have, we're not going to be doing this today, but we have an Ultramarine stratagem called Martial Precision. It means with a single model and a single shot, you can auto hit. So let's say we're in our shooting phase and we want to use Martial Precision. You can use that once in that phase, all right? You can't then, you pay your 1 CP, you automatically hit, for example, with a las cannon, which is what you'd want to spend it on something powerful if you're going to hit once with something. You can't then in the same shooting phase with another unit use Martial Precision again. But I mean, that's basically it. So don't be that guy that tries to use the same stratagem in the same shooting phase. But as we'll find out in a minute, well, keep you surprised, there are certain stratagems that work in different phases. For example, there are stratagems that work in both the shooting and fight phase. That is allowed because it's a different phase. It is shooting phase, which is separate to fight phase. So if that stratagem does work, then you can pay 1 CP in the shooting phase. And then into the different phase, you can then use it because it's a different phase. Hope that makes sense. Hopefully with the demonstrations we're going to do now, everything will become clear. All right, let's do it. So first stratagem is Death to the Traitors, and this one only costs 1 CP. In simple terms, it can only be Adeptus Astartes versus Heretic Astartes. So for this example, I am using Plague Marines, but Heretic Astartes can be anything. It can be, well, not anything, but it can be things like Plagueburst Crawlers, Terminators, even Rhinos have that keyword. So basically, it's Imperium versus Chaos and can only work against Chaos, and it's really cool. And it can only happen, and you need to pay attention to this in a lot of stratagems. You need to pay attention to what phase it's in, and this one is only in the fight phase, so in melee combat. And basically they get to our beautiful Blade Guard here, they get to re-roll all their hit rolls against the Heretic Astartes. So let's see how they do. So the great thing about Blade Guard is they get a lot of attacks. Individually they get 3 for each of the actual veterans and then 4 for the sergeant, but on the charge with shock troops they obviously get 1 more each attack, so that's actually a whopping 13 slashes or attacks that they get. So I'm going to chuck the dice and we'll have a moment of silence to hear these 13 dice going in, and they're hitting on 3s because they're weapon skill 3. So that was actually a really good roll. Only 3 dice didn't get through, but because of the stratagem, this is where it gets action. I get to re-roll the hit roll. So let's see how they do. And all of those went through. Wow. So that means that all of the dice basically got through, but that's not the hard part done. The main thing is, because these Plague Marines are toughness 5, even with the +1 on their strength, their default 4, that means that they're going to actually be hitting on 4. So let's see how they do. So after that, 7 got through. The rest didn't, but this is where it gets good because of course the Blade Guard have -3 AP on that sword, and the Plague Marines have a save of 3, so that means they're actually saving on 6s. They don't make any 6 saves, and here's the good thing: these swords that the Blade Guard have, they do 2 damage each. So because we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 got through, that means that that is actually 14 attacks going in, 14 damage, sorry, that they're going to be saving. And we are doing 8th edition rules for the Plague Marines here. That means that they're going to be doing they're going to be doing that amount of damage saving on 5s for their disgustingly resilient. So 14 disgustingly resilient 5s up, and they make only 3. Well, that's still pretty good for all of that. But that means as we're playing 8th edition for the Death Guard there, or even if they were on damage 2, that is 2. That, my goodness, that's a lot of wounds that went through. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 wounds went there. So they all would have been killed twice over in 8th edition, and it would have destroyed them all. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. They would have wiped them all out even if they had 2 wounds. That is pretty decent, and that is a very powerful stratagem in terms of making sure you get all those hits through on those chaos. Next up, we have Honor the Chapter, and it costs 2 command points, so 2 of those. And the limitations on this one is at the end of the fight phase, you select 1 Assault Intercessor squad. I've got a very large single squad here of 10, so that's 9 Assault Intercessors and 1 Sergeant. And that means that at the end of the fight phase, they get to fight again, and they're attacking 20 Poxwalkers here, hypothetically, of course. So let's see how they do. First of all, they're going to fight, so they haven't fought yet. And if you can believe it, these guys dish out 41 attacks on the charge. So by default, each of the regular guys do 2, but they get +2. Why? 1, because it's a chainsword, so they get an extra hit with the chainsword, and they get another one because they're on the charge. So each of those do a 4 attacks each, and then the sergeant does 5 attacks. So that is 41 attacks going in twice, because they get to fight first, and then they get to fight again. So let's see how they do. So 41 attacks going in, hitting on 3s because of weapon skill 3s. Let's see how many they get. 41 attacks. So 27 hits got through there, and now we actually need to wound them. So the Assault Intercessors, there's no more strength on Astartes Chainsword. It's basically just user, which is 4. But because the Poxwalkers are only toughness 3, we're actually going to be wounding on 3s. So 18 got through. As we know, Poxwalkers don't have a save. They have a 7+, which means they've got 18 disgustingly resilience, and they save. So 13 Poxwalkers died, and then now the stratagem kicks in. It does say specifically the end of the fight phase, so you can't seem to double up on just... You're wondering why I didn't just do 82 attacks to open with. I guess maybe you can do that, but it does say at the end of the fight phase. So now we get to do it all again, and I'm going to do this really quickly. So that's, just for the record, that's already 18 Poxwalkers that are dead. Sorry, 13 Poxwalkers. So let's say for argument's sake we've got 30 Poxwalkers here. So another 41 hits going in. 13 Poxwalkers already dead. 25 hits get through, so that is again strength 4 versus toughness 3, and that is wounding on 3s. 20 got through on 3 ups. That means that they're making 20 disgustingly resilience on 5s up, and they do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's it. So that means in total, again, I'm kidding you not, another 13 dead. So in total, because they were able to fight twice, they killed a total of 26 Poxwalkers. Absolutely insane amount of chainsaw dagger comes out of these guys. As you can see, I have kit bashed them, which is not current. I thought we were going to get jump packs for them. They don't come like this, but yeah, they're beautiful models, and it's the first time I've actually been able to roll some dice with them. And I think just strength in numbers, 41 attacks, you're able to fight twice. And I would say with this stratagem, you can only use it with specifically Assault Intercessors. They are specific to a single type of unit, single type of model, and they are spoiled. And it's almost worth taking them, even just 5 to 10 of them, for just the pure amount of, what is that, 82 hits they put out. That is absolutely insane. On to the next one. This stratagem is called Fury of the First, and it costs 1 CP. And I really like this stratagem. there's been a lot of rhetoric recently about Games Workshop, phasing Firstborn Marines out, phasing Terminators out, but they've given them their very own stratagem. This is purely for Terminator models, and it's a really, really good one. Basically, in either the shooting or the fight phase, so either phase, you can spend 1 CP and it adds 1 to their hit roll. Okay, so if you're shooting, that adds 1 to your hit roll. So they've got a ballistic skill of 3, which means that gets taken down to a 2 for regular weapons. And then when they're fighting, their weapon skill gets taken down to a 2 as well, because it's usually hitting on 3s or be hitting on 2s for both. Now, there will be modifiers with the weapons, which we'll get to in a second in my example, but I think that's really, really cool. Now, what I worked out by that logic, as of course I'm an Ultramarian player, so it is practical hypothetical. Hypothetically, you can use this stratagem in either your shooting, or should I say, your shooting phase, followed by your fight phase. So you can, let's imagine it. Let's give some context. You've teleported in with your Terminators turn 2, and they shoot their weapons, and then they charge, and then they fight. For this example, they're gonna shoot this Chaos Rhino with melter guns, combi melters, because I'm going to proxy them as relic Terminators just to keep things simple. And then they're going to charge and they're going to soar into it, and they're all going to have chain fists for this example. So they're all going to have chain fists. And we're going to use the stratagem in both. As we know, it costs 1 CP, so I'm going to use it in the shooting phase. We're going to charge, assume that they're right next to it as they are, okay, just for argument's sake. And then in the shooting phase, we're going to spend another CP and then whack it and saw it to pieces with the chain fist. I'm actually really excited about to see what happens, see if they can take this out in one go. And I will just give a little heads up. This is my friend Siggy's Rhino. His girlfriend actually painted for him. He gets his girlfriend to paint all his models, and she's actually, he's a lucky boy. She's actually a represented model, and I'm not talking about the Instagram kind, the ones you see on billboards. And she annoyingly painted in a Jade Fist helmet on the spike there. She lovingly did that to troll me. So I'm not too happy about that. But anyway, let's get down to it. Let's roll some dice. Let's see what happens. Our Terminators have teleported in, and they're immediately about to fire their combi melters. They're going to fire their melter profile of the weapon. That, of course, is Assault 1, which means that they only get 5 shots. But because of the strat that they're using, the stratagem, that means that they get +1 to their hits. So 5 shots going in. They all hit on a 2+. Fantastic. That means that all of those hits go through. Now, because it's a melter gun, that means it's strength 8 versus the Rhino's toughness 7. So they're actually then wounding on 3s. 4 of those 5 got through, but it's actually melter gun profile is -4 AP. The Rhino has a standard Astartes save of 3+, which means it doesn't get a save. So that means horrendously 4 shots got through, and that means each one of those is D6. So let's see how we do. Let's see how many shots we've got, how much damage. So after all the damage is counted up, after 4 times D6, ends up with 18 wounds. 18 damage, should I say. So that Rhino is done. That Rhino is exploded. And we didn't even get a chance to actually have a look at the fight phase. But I really want to know what Chain Fists can do to it. So we're going to do a little bonus session and see the melee. As if they didn't. As if all their bolters jammed. So let's have a quick look. So you can hear the sound of their chain fists as they grind into the metal, ceramite on metal as they grind into the Rhino, squealing, and we'll see how many hits that they can put in. Terminators get a massive 16 attacks on the charge. Regular Terminators, they of course get 2 each, so +1 is 3. That is 4 miniatures times 3, so that is 12, and then the Sergeant of course gets 3 attacks +1, which is 4, so that takes us up to 16. So 16 attacks going in now with Chain Fists, and of course we're going to spend another CP. We've spent 1 on the shooting and 1 on the fight phase. So that means that we now get, instead of hitting on what would normally be 3, but as we know with a chain fist, that is actually -1 to the hit roll. So it would have been hitting on 4s, because if you're attacking with a chain fist, you get -1. So that actually lowers your ballistic, your weapon skill. So it goes down to 4. So you're hitting on 4s, but then because of the strat, you're back to hitting on 3s again. So it kind of completely negates hitting with power fists or chain fists or anything like that, or thunder hammers if you have thunder hammers, which always, -1 from your hit roll. So let's see how they do. So 16 hits going in and hitting on 3s. So the chain fist is now soaring in, and it's actually ×2 users. So the Terminator's normal strength is actually a 4, which takes it up to 8. So very similar to the power of a melter gun, actually, which means it's over the strength 6 of the Rhino, but not quite double. That means that we're actually wounding on 3s. So after that, 9 went through, but this is the really cool thing about chain fists and vehicles. It's usually D3 damage, right? But because they're attacking a vehicle specifically, it is a flat damage characteristic of 3. So that means the amount of dice I've got here, that will actually be 3, 6, 9 times 3. So that's actually 27 wounds to get through. I think again it's blown up. But you can see here how even with just making sure that those really powerful melter guns on the shooting phase and the chain fist, making sure those hits get through with that extra +1 to hit is really effective. And that is that. So this is Transhuman Physiology, and it costs 1 CP for up to 5 models, i.e. we can see here our poster boys of 9th edition. We've got Eradicators, 3 Eradicators, so you can have up to 5 for 1 CP, or if it's over 5, i.e. you've got a unit of 10, for example the Assault Intercessors that I put in a unit of 10 earlier, they'd have to pay 2 CP for this. So what does it mean? So basically the unit limitations, it has to be a Primaris unit. These guys are obviously Primaris in Mark X Gravis armor. And that means until the end of the phase, each time an attack is made against that unit, i.e. we have our very ugly Mephitic Blight Hauler here, and he's going to be shooting these guys. Until the end of the phase, each time attackers are made against that unit, an unmodified wound roll of 1 to 3 for that attack fails, irrespective of any abilities or weapon the model making the attack may have. So that basically means in the wound phase, if it's a roll of 1 to 3, it will automatically fail. So let's have a look. So he's going to fire the Mephitic Blight Hauler is firing his dirty multi-melter into him. Rolls a 6. They've got a terrible weapon skill of 4, but he hits anyway. The profile of his multi-melter, is only heavy 1, so only gets 1 shot. But it is a mighty strength 8 versus their toughness 5, which actually isn't too shabby. But that means that then is a wound roll, because it's obviously more, of 3, which means that shot immediately fails. It fails to hit them because it's a wound roll of 3, because obviously it's strength of 8 versus toughness 5. So that means on that wound roll of 3, it fails. It completely fails. So you can see here that a really powerful weapon like that could have easily taken one of these guys out, even with 3 wounds, has failed. And that is Transhuman Physiology. Next up, guys, is Rapid Fire, and this costs 2 CP. Anything more than 1 CP, you're kind of like, oh, it's a bit pricey, isn't it? So, but very much like Honor the Chapter with the Assault Intercessors earlier, this is specially made for Intercessor squads or veteran Intercessor squads. So that is purely limited to these guys, these particular units. And of course, rather than melee this time, this involves their shooting phase. So it's pretty much exactly the same strat, but apart from shooting. So they shoot first as per normal, and then at the end of their shooting phase, you can select 1 Intercessor squad, and that unit can fight again. So again, to make the most out of this, I've chosen 1 massive squad of 10 Intercessors, and they're going to be firing into a fetid bloat drone, and let's see if we can kill it in 2 shots. 10 shots going in, hitting on 3s. 7 got through. So that is then strength of the bolt rifle, stalker bolt rifle 4 versus toughness 7, so wounding on 5s. 4 get through, so that means that he has to make a save. So that is then his standard save of 3+, minus the 2 AP from the power of the stalker bolt rifle, so he's saving on 5s. He only made 3 saves, so that means that there's actually 3 that got through. So that means he has to make, because that's 3 obviously damage. The great thing about stalker bolt rifles is they've got 2 damage. They're actually really good Space Marine killers. But that means that that's then, if 3 got through, that means that's doubled. So that is then 6 disgustingly resilience he has to make. He made 2, which means 4 got through, so his wounds are down to 4. And you can really see here now how you really need that extra shooting round to obviously take down something big and tough like that. So next we're going to pay our 2 CP for obviously this. Now we get to shoot again. So another 10 going in. 10 going in, hitting on 3s. Much better this time. 8 got through. So that means then again it's strength 4 versus toughness 7, so wounding on 5s. 6 get through, AP minus 2 versus a save 3. Fetid bloat drone saving on 5s again. No saves, oh my days. So that means then that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 got through. That's 12 wounds, 12 damage should I say, which means that he's actually going to have to make a 5+ on 12 damage. That is pretty brutal. Can he do it? He actually made a whopping 6 saves, but because it was 12 damage that went through, he still got 6 through. This is why I'm I totally think Disgustingly Resilient in 8th edition is totally OP, but still, we managed to do it, but we needed to get 12 shots to go through there, so that means that he's done. 4 and 6 in the 2 shooting rounds. Thank goodness the second one was a 6. That was really close this time. The Fetid bloat drone is destroyed, and that is the end of that stratagem. Good night. Next up, we have the penultimate one for this particular Battle Tactic Stratagem series introduction. We have 1 command point for Gene-Wrought Might. That means that you have to have the Primaris keyword. So no Firstborn Marines for this one. Only Primaris units, so it's not specific to a specific unit, but just Primaris keyword. And this is in the fight phase, and each time a model makes a melee attack, an unmodified roll of 6 automatically wounds a target. Now, I've had this question before, and even I've asked it. What does unmodified roll mean? That means as it lies. So as it lies in the dice tray without any modifiers. So if you see whatever is face up, that's the simplest way of describing what an unmodified roll is. Now, we are going to have a look at this now with our boys here. We have a Lord of Contagion who's got 6 wounds. Yep, and we've got our fantastic Outriders, and they are going to be hacking away with their chainswords. So let's see how much damage they can do on the charge to him in the fight phase. I'm not going to believe this, guys. Well, those of you who do know Outriders will know this, but they do, for 3 models, they do an unprecedented amount of attacks. I know I keep saying that, but these guys are nuts. So basically, on the surface of it, these guys do 2 and 2 and 3, as you would expect. But on top of the chainsword, as we know, it does an extra 1, so that's got 3, 3, and then 4 attacks. On top of that, they obviously have Shock Assault, which means, you know, if all Space Marines get that, so that then is increased by another 1, 1, and 1. And then they also, if you look at the datasheet under abilities, they have what's called a Devastating Charge. Now, yes, that's on top of the assault, the Shock Assault. That's an extra 2 attacks. So that means in total they do 19 attacks. That's 2, 2, 2 and 2, 1, 1. So that's basically, if you can believe it, that's 6 and 6, and then 7 for this guy. So that's absolutely insane. That's 12, yeah, 12 plus 7, 19 attacks. So 19 attacks, guys, going in for these guys now. 19 attacks going in, hitting on 3s. So just to re-clarify, we're looking in the dice tray over here for as many 6s as possible, because the 6s do they basically do, they do an automatically wound. So they basically get to skip the next stage of the rolling. And it's actually pretty tasty. So we actually had 4 6s. So we're going to put those to one side because those have automatically wounded. And then we can carry on. We have another 4, 8, 9, 10, 11 that got through. So we've got to roll with those first now to see if they wound and get through. So it's strength 4 of the Chainsword versus toughness 5 of the Lord of Contagion. So we're obviously wounding on 5s. Not too shabby actually, 7 got through. So that means 7 got through. And now we can pick these up again because these, as we know, we put them to one side. Those 6s automatically wounded. You can see that that's then boosted our final attack. So that will be an AP -1 versus a standard save of 2. So actually, this dude is saving on 3s. So this could all go pear-shaped. Lord of Contagion saving on 3s. So only 7 got through there. This is going to be really tight. Of course, now he gets his Disgustingly Resilient, saving again on 5 ups. And he makes two Disgustingly Resilient, so 5 damage went through. He's not dead, but he's on his final legs. They weren't able to kill him. He's probably going to give him a whack now in return for that. But you can see there that just the pure amount of damage that we can get done and the amount of hits that you can get through on that. Had it been infantry, it would have sliced totally through them. But even with a tough model, you can get his wounds down. On to the next and final stratagem for today, guys. So the final stratagem for today, it costs 1 CP and it's called Unyielding in the Face of Foe. Basically, this is only, limitations-wise again, is for Mark X Gravis armor marines. So we're talking my fantastic custom. If you haven't already seen my Let's Kit Bash Heavy Intercessors out of Eradicators, because they're still not released at the time of this video in their own multi-part kit. Yes, they are in the Kill Team box set per Iron Nexus, but it isn't worth it for me. And these were Kit Bash way before then anyway, because they made us wait 9 months. It's probably going to be a year by the time we get the actual box set. It was done last summer that they previewed it. Anyway, so these are my heavy intercessors, but you can, this stratagem can only be used if you are on the receiving end of attacks and you are Mark X Gravis. So that is aggressors, that's heavy intercessors, that is eradicators. So basically you want to use it for something like that. And what it means is the buff is that until the end of the phase, i.e. when you're being attacked with a weapon of a damage characteristic of 1 is allocated to the model, then you add 1 to any armor saving throw. So in simple terms, these Plague Marines are going to shoot them with a bolt gun, right? And a bolt gun is a damage, if you can see on the data sheet here, it actually does 1 damage. So this is only good for mass, things like mass bolter fire. If you've got like loads of mass bolter fire coming in or single damage shots like las guns or whatever, then anything that's damage 1, you want to slap this 1 CP on there to make sure that when the fire comes in that you get basically a +1 to your armor saving throw. So as we all know, or should know, the saving throw for a Space Marine, regardless of what armor they've got on, is a 3+ pretty much. So that means they're actually going to be saving on 4s rather than 3s. So let's see how they get on. So bolt gun profile is a rapid fire 1, which means that it's 5 Marines, so they're each firing twice because they're obviously within rapid fire range. So that's 10 shots going in, and they're hitting on ballistic skill of a standard Heretic Astartes of 3+. That is strength 4 versus strength 4 of the bolt gun versus toughness 5. I will say it's so good we finally got Space Marines with toughness 5. As I said before, I'm so sick of Plague Marines having toughness 5. But anyway, the Plague Marines Mega bolt guns on the Graphis armor will be hitting on, of course, 5s. They are blessed with Nurgle's gifts today because they actually got 4 that went through, 2 6s and 2 5s. So anyway, so that means that these guys here, now this is where it kicks in, because obviously they don't have any AP on that bolt gun, but they're actually usually saving on 3s. But now because of the point that we've put on there that they actually now save on force. So saving on force. So out of those 4 that they needed to make, they only made 1 that was under 4. So that means rather than all this mass bolter fire getting through, they only have 1 wound off 1 Marine. So that would be, he's still got 2 wounds left on him. So I guess, yeah, I mean, that one's all right, I guess. I don't know whether we finished on a high in terms of a stratagem. It certainly wasn't one of the most fun stratagems to do. But guys, thank you very much. This was just supposed to be my first strategy introduction video to stratagems. I hope you found it useful. As always, feed the YouTube algorithm if you liked it. Like, comment, and do give me a follow. I've really enjoyed today actually. I'm definitely going to be following up hopefully with the other stratagems in the Space Marine Codex. Do let me know if I messed anything up. Do let me know if you really liked it, if I can change the format of it. I love your comments. I love your feedback. Comment down below. Let's have a chat down there. And yeah, praise the Emperor. Let the Emperor be with you. The Emperor protects. And you take care. This has been Chapter Master Morgan.